All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Fluid Operations, the podcast that we love talking to you guys about. As always, I've got Miller Truby at my side. How are we doing today, Miller?
We're doing great today, Kirk. How are you?
I'm well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be talking to our next guest here. We've got today, we're going to be joined by Marlo Davis. He's from the Snyderville Basin Water Reclamation District in Park City, Utah. Marlo and I recently met each other and excited to have you on the podcast, Marlo. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. We know utility operators have all kinds of extra time in their day. So, taking these 30 to 45 minutes with us really means a lot to us. And hopefully the people that are listening to this to learn about what we do on a day-to-day basis. So, Marlo, I'll turn it over to you for a quick introduction and look forward to this conversation today.
Well, thanks for having me. I am Marlo Davis. I've been with Snyderville for about 27 years. I am the treatment superintendent of the East Canyon Water Reclamation Facility, one of two treatment plants here at Snyderville Basin. Um, I worked my way up through the ranks here and managed to settle into this spot where I get to oversee the plant. And I look forward to having this visit with you guys today.
And how long have you been with that plant?
I've been at this plant my whole career in
Oh,
wastewater,
wow.
so for
Okay.
27 years.
Neat. It's interesting to hear. We hear a lot of operators who kind of start out bouncing around before they find their forever home, and then we run into people like you who found it on the first try and worked your way into something that's a career.
Right.
Absolutely.
I was lucky enough to find a district that was awesome right off the get-go. And they've taken good care of us here. So, and we got an awesome board here that tries to make sure that our guys are taken care of, and that's made it easy to stay here.
Oh, that's great. It's 27 years at the same plant. That's going to make my mind go, man, what is the biggest change you've seen in 27 years at
You
the plant?
know, the biggest change is really technology. When I started
Oh,
here, it was a conventional plant. It had a little aeration basin, and now we are two AO ditches or A2O ditches here, and no more little conventional plant in the middle of the plant. And technology has come a long ways. Right now, we're looking at some technology that will allow us to add ballasted material to the plant and give us a little extra capacity. And you know, there's so much change from what it was like 27 years ago when I started.
absolutely. That is a big change. So when you said you got ballasted,
We don't have the ballasted material yet, but it's
okay.
something that we're looking at.
Oh, you're looking at it. Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, nice. So how much capacity is that going to bring you guys?
So right now we're a 4 MGD plant. We're not quite sure where that will take us when we get done looking at it. When we originally started looking at the ballasted material, we were going to go up to a 7.2. We're not
Oh, wow.
looking to go quite that far with it at
Okay.
this time. So we're still in that design phase. So we're kind of trying to figure that out.
And is
Yeah.
that driven by increasing demand in that region that's feeding the plant,
Yeah.
or okay, so that's coming down
And we're
to
a ski community, so it's kind of, you know, is it all just uh full-time growth here, or we got to be able to accommodate that ski time season, in the middle of winter.
yep. And the first thing I looked up Snyderville, and the first photo that comes up is the Olympic ski jumping setup that they've got
Hmm.
there on the side of the hill, which I think it's been a while since the Olympics were in that area, but I'm sure that those
Well,
types of events and
they're coming back. They
right,
already got 2034 written on the hill.
right,
Nice.
yeah, got a plan for that.
Yep.
So again, going back to early days, what are some of the things that kept you in this space?
When I very first started looking at applying here, I needed stability.
Hmm.
Um, I just started a family, and I was in an industry where it wasn't real stable. I was doing woodworking, doing cabinets,
Hmm.
and I needed stability. I needed to know that my family was going to be taken care of, and this was a field that I knew that my family would be able to be taken care of throughout my career.
Wow, what a transition from woodworking to wastewater treatment. That's
Right.
a that's a big change. I have some woodworking capabilities as well, but I don't remember any biology being in that in those books.
So for me, what brought me in was I had moved to a warehouse that was selling the product to the cabinet shops, and they needed somebody to be able to work on the spray pumps that cabinet shops use for lacquer or for glues or for just transfer pumps for transferring glue. And so they had sent me to pump schools, a couple
Hmm.
of them throughout the country. And so when I applied here, I had that pump school background that helped me get on. So I had mechanical seal knowledge, I had piston pump knowledge, different things like that, diaphragm pump knowledge that helped me have a little bit of history mechanically. And
Right.
at our plant, our operators do it all. They don't just do operations, they do maintenance, they do truck driving, they do lab work. We're jack of all trades at our plant.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common around a lot of plants,
Yeah,
unless they're really big plants.
Right.
absolutely. That is the story. You know, if you watch back the episodes of this podcast, I don't think we've talked to anybody yet who has been, you know, has told us that they only stay in their own lane and do their one thing, and that they, you know, go home at the same time every like that's nobody lives that life in this field anymore. I don't think.
There are some bigger plants that do, as I'm sure we might get into a little bit here in a little while. My son happens to be in the industry and he works at one of those plants. He is a treatment plant operator. He's a night shift operator at a bigger plant down in Salt Lake. That that's what he does is plant operations, and they have maintenance staff, they have lab staff. Well, he gets to kind of overlap in some of those. He doesn't really get his hands deep in it.
Oh, that's good. I think that's unusual from what we've been hearing.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
how
go
do
ahead.
you? What is the process, if you don't mind talking about it? What is the process that you guys undertake when you're looking at the engineering aspect of bringing on something like that ballasted material that you talked about? What is that process that you go through to evaluate that and make that decision as a plant? Whether okay, how do we choose a vendor? How do we choose a
So
timeline? That kind of stuff.
we we really take our time in making sure that we choose a process that's about or that's um, really secure. You know, we don't like being the guinea pig, so we want to make sure it's something that's proven. And we have an excellent engineer that works with us that we go out and we evaluate these sites that are already running. Uh, Even like our other plant that just came online in 2019, me and the other superintendent, we would go out and do these site visits for every little piece of equipment that was crucial to us. UVs, headwork screens, all of this stuff. We would go out and evaluate and talk with the operators that are actually running it to make sure that we understand what it's going to take to operate it. And then on top of that, in my position, I like to look at all the data that's behind it. Like we have a really tight phosphorus limit here. So one of the things that I've already started asking for is I want to see the data from these plants on what their phosphorus is that they're getting out of these plants. Um, I need to be able to be down around zero point 0.1 consistently on my effluent coming out. And I want to know, can I do that biologically running this process? Or am I going to have to run chemical? Um, or do I need to look at a different material that will allow me to draw more mass in to be able to get down there, you know? So there's a lot of evaluation that goes in there. And we started this process quite a while ago when we very first started looking at expanding probably 6 or 7 years ago. And we've kind of narrowed it down to one that we really want to go look at real tight.
And I presume sort of the unsaid part of that is when you do those evaluations, you're not looking for on paper proof. You're looking for somebody to actually show
No.
you this is what it needs to do. Show me that it's doing it in person, in real life, with real operations, right?
And that's why we go to plants that are operating, and we don't go with the vendor. We go talk to the other operators. Those are the ones that are going to tell us how it's working, not the vendor. The vendor's going to tell us how they see it working. We want to go see how it's actually working.
Yeah, the vendor. We're aspirational. Kirk and I are both salespeople for a vendor. We're aspirational. We want to talk about what it can do and what we
Right.
want it to be able to do and what we think you could do with it. But that, that doesn't always represent the reality of what is going to happen when, water meets treatment media.
And that, given that, that's one of the things we try to do is go visit a plant that's as close to us as we can that's actually operating it. So we try to find one that's, is there a mountainous one that's around our same MGD that is operating this? Can we go visit them and see what their numbers are like? And yeah, sometimes that's hard to do, but if it's there, that's where we're gonna go.
Wow, that's really neat. I mean, because I know it takes a lot of time to get there. So when you start a process like this, is this like 2, 3 years, 4 years? How long does a
Um,
process like this take?
Like I said, we started all of this probably 6 years ago, but
6
this
years.
process here, um, the process we're gonna look at, we very first looked at probably 3 years ago. Now
Okay.
we're down to where we're gonna go make these site visits.
Yeah. Well, what it tells me is, I think, and what I want the audience when they're listening to this is how much planning it takes in these types of processes, not only from a growth perspective, you're a ski area, you have these ebb and flows of massive amounts of water at certain times and then very low flows at other times. It's very hard if you're not in this space to understand how to manage something like that. Miller and I both come from operations as well, commissioning plants and things of that nature. So we understand it's designed to do it this way, but once you turn it on, that's a whole nother animal. And we've all been there, unfortunately.
The other interesting part of that is, while you're in all of this design and talk is, the economy changes or interest rates change or things change that make it so that, hey, maybe you got more time to take a step back or you have to push things to move forward or whatever might change. So there's a lot of different things that play into that may push how you have to look at things. And
Absolutely.
fortunately for us, the economy changed in such that we were able to take a step back and really get a good look at this.
Nice. That's amazing. I'm going to switch gears a little bit because one of the things when you and I met recently was in regards to obviously the Operators Challenge. Um, People that aren't familiar with that, that is an event that happens at a lot of different conferences around the world and around the US as well, even regionally, locally, nationally. This is kind of a major thing that happens, and I'll let you kind of talk about it more, Marlo. But anytime we're at a conference, we always hear that clanging and sawing and banging in the background, right? As a manufacturer, we're always up in the booth, kind of hanging out in that area and don't get a lot of time to come back because we're visiting with people walking through these conferences. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in that. What's it about? Um,
So
Things of that nature.
for me, the when I first seen Operators Challenge, I was actually at our local conference. I was up for an award and I got to go down and uh, we didn't really have a big presence in Operators Challenge at the time, but there was like 3 or 4 teams running at our local event at that time, and I was standing next to our general manager, and we were watching the event go on, and he looked at me and says, "You think we could do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think we could do this, and I think we could do well at it." And so we put a team together for the next year and we competed and we've been a part of that ever since. And that was 2004. And I was a part of that very first team. And so I got involved with the Operators Challenge in 2004. And in Utah at the time, we didn't even have the same equipment as what Nationals or WEFTEC did. We was just using what we had available here, and just having our own competition. And about 2 years after we got involved, we decided, hey, we want to be able to send a team to WEFTEC. And we rented the equipment for our team to practice. But our team, we did something unique, and we pulled from the 5 teams that competed and made it an all-star team, which created a new community for us here in Utah. And that all-star team has competed every year since. But we also put the commitment forth to start buying that equipment. And now we have a huge community of people that are a part of this challenge of process control, lab event, collections event, safety event, maintenance event, that all get together every year down in St. George, Utah, and we compete against each other. We look forward to meeting with each other. It's just a huge community event that brings all the operators together, that makes us better people. And which is interesting. I heard a quote this morning, listening to another podcast from an author that I really like. And she had said, skills building happens in relationships. And that's what I think Operators Challenge is this huge skills building relationship between operators. But, it's such a great opportunity for an operator to be a part of Operators Challenge. They gain so much, but what they gain the most is that community, that they can call on one another. It's really, I'd call it a brotherhood, but it's not brothers. There's so many ladies that are in it, and there's such a wonderful group of people that are just a part of this, that are just amazing folks that in a heartbeat you can call on any of them whenever you need anything.
This is really cool, and this ties in so much, I think, to what you had already said on the engineering process that you guys undertake, where it's not, hey, what works at this plant? It's, hey, let's go look at the neighboring plant down the road that's doing something similar. Well, if you haven't done the work and the footwork to build that kind of community trust between local plants and knowing all the other operators, knowing all the other supervisors and administrators and all that, it's probably harder to do that. And I mean, building that, you have talked about community, building that community makes the industry that you're in better as a whole, because now not only do you have that sort of interpersonal relationship and skills building, but you also have a resource that you can go to answer a question about, hey, has anybody ever done this before? Has anybody ever tried this product, this chemical, this piece of software, whatever it is? What did you think about it? And you're going to get trustworthy answers from that, because you've built that trust, that interpersonal and inter-district trust. That is, it's hard to do. I've been to a lot of plants that they feel like they're on the moon, and when there's a problem, their only options are to call the vendor or call the engineer that built it. And if those people aren't available or don't know the answer or are trying to, just sell their solution without actually thinking about the best practice, that's as good as they're going to get, because they don't have anybody else they can call. And I love that solution and what you're talking about, and the organic way of building it through, sort of friendly competition. That's brilliant. And I hope people will take that to heart, that this can be more than just a job, but a community of support.
There's so much there too. I mean, you're not just getting that support, you're building leaders. The people that I started competing with, back in 2005, 2006, 2007, those are the same people that are leading all these plants today. Those same people that we were at each other, pushing each other, being competitive and then going out and having a beer afterwards back then, are the same people that are sitting in the same chairs that I'm sitting in today, and we can call each other in a heartbeat, which makes it awesome. But the other part of that it too is it's a tool for me, for my operators to say, hey, I want to give you something that you can look forward to and be a part of this community. And by allowing them to be a part of this team, it is something they can grab hold of that they want to be a part of. And it makes them want to stay in this field because they're a part of the community. It's something great. Once they get involved with it, it's just something that just pulls them in and just keeps them a part of it.
Yeah, and you can see that too. There's when you walk around, and obviously I've been to several WEFTECs, and you see all the jerseys and the competition and the names, and now you have full female teams, and the competitiveness of it, but yet they're still very friendly. Because I've been
Yeah.
back, I've watched some of them. I mean, when they're on the floor, it's all business, but when they're off the floor, it's kind of like some of these events. I'm a big hockey guy, right? So watching a lot of hockey, these guys are fighting. Third period fighting game 7, but yet as soon as it's over, like shaking hands, good game, man.
Right.
But that's the spirit of competition, right? You want to win,
I
and that's okay.
I can remember in 2008 when I competed at WEFTEC. That's the only time I got to compete at WEFTEC. Um, we'd hit the floor and it was all game face, at 100% trying to focus on what we were doing. But the second we walked through that gate back to the table, we were talking with the other teams, especially Hawaii. I remember talking to Hawaii a lot. And then we would go root for them because we were having that conversation there at the tables. And I those are the things that stick with you for a long time. And that team for me created a lifelong friendship.
That's
Somebody
awesome.
on that team has become a friend to me that I know that I can call thick or thin. He's retired now, but we still hang out. We go ride our motorcycles together. We just went to Hawaii like a month ago together, so lifelong friendships come out of these.
That's awesome. That is really cool to hear.
That's the type of thing that makes you want to, like you said, makes you want to keep doing it because we all know the job isn't always rosy. It's not always very fun to come home at the end of the day and think about what you did. But that's the type of thing that when that's there, it'll make you want to keep coming back for more. Even when it's beatings, you'll still keep coming back, and that's fantastic. And it answers a question that I think we ask on this podcast to most of our guests, but in a kind of a different way. But we keep hearing about the gray wave and the wave of retirements, and there aren't young people as much coming into the water industry as a whole, whether that be on the operations side or for vendors and engineers and things like that. And we kind of give people an open forum, talk about what are you doing to try and bring young folks into either your plant or your industry, and what does that need to be and what needs to change so that the water and wastewater industry is competitive with oil and gas and all those other things that we tend to lose talented people to. And I mean, I think you've already answered the question. This is one of those things. Build a community and make people want to stay. Give people a reason to look forward to going to work and practicing and getting better and showing their skills, right?
Yep. Really, that's one of the biggest tools we have, because these young kids, they're really taught that if you go out and you seek a different job every couple of years, you increase your wage.
Hmm.
So if we don't use those things like building a community that they're happy to be a part of, and we support them in that, they're going to very willingly go seek somewhere else where they can get a higher wage. So we got to give them a reason why they want to be here, so that they're not going out there and just looking for the old mighty dollar. They got to be proud of what they're doing. And if we give them that, they know that they're protecting the environment. We give them those reasons to be proud. And then they understand that, okay, maybe I don't have to make $500,000, right? But they can also see where they can make 6 figures if they needed to.
Yep.
You can do that in this industry.
Yeah.
If you just put your nose down and you do what you need to get your certifications and learn how to do the work, stick with it for a while, you can get there.
Yep. And
Yeah.
you can get there while still, being able to see the ladder. That's, I think that's a part of it too, is there's so many jobs where it's like, yeah, that's sure you can get there, but nobody's going to show you how. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself. And,
Right.
that's, I think, also intimidating for young people. Like, yeah, great. Theoretically I can get there, but how? And that's, what you're talking about is much more, again, community, the idea of here's a support system. Show us what you got and we'll show you the way. And that's, hopefully that translates to a healthier working environment. I think the water industry has gotten better in the time that I've been in it. I'm about 20 years in now, and I think it was even less appealing when I started in sort of the mid 2000s, and it has gotten better. But it's a hard slog because there's just so many alternatives that look like and feel like they're going to pay more.
I can remember when I first started, and I was sitting out on my front porch one day, and one of the neighbors came over and asked what I did for a living, and I told them I was in wastewater, and they were like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I was like, "I'm not,
Right.
it pays the bills. Somebody's got to do it. I'm protecting the environment. Why are you sorry?"
Right.
You know? And I think they were taken back by it. Nowadays, though, you say, "Well, I'm in wastewater," and everybody's like, "That's cool."
Yep.
That's
And
progress.
so we're finally starting to get there. There are still some people that are like, "How do you do it?"
Yeah.
But
There's a lot of people like that, unfortunately, still.
It's hard. It's hard to fathom. It's hard to picture for people who haven't actually been around it and around heavy process equipment of any kind. It's really hard to describe for people. I've always had that conversation with friends. What is it like your day to day? Well, without being able to take you to a plant, it's kind of hard to explain.
well, and I try to invite people up. Hey, you want to see what it's like? Come on up. I'll take you on a
Absolutely.
tour. Sometimes when I take them through headworks, they regret their choice, but
You got to have good odor control, right?
and we do have pretty good odor control, but headworks can still get to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Been there. Been there. Yeah, that's the smell of money, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
Sometimes literally with the dollar. That's one of my favorite things is seeing the posts people make of wastewater treatment operators finding a $5 bill against a bar screen. Like, all right, how much do I want that $5 bill?
Well, we used to see them all the time. Our new equipment doesn't show that very much, but when I very first started, that screen was it was an older type screen that would pick those up, and it was open, and we would pick them off and go in and wash them off, put them in the drying oven. Guess where they went for lunch?
There you go. Right back to the local restaurant where it probably came from in the first place. That's funny.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, another question I have for you. We talked a lot about the Operators Challenge and the camaraderie there. You're also a WEF delegate, which is where we met is at a WEF
Yes.
event. So what brought you to want to do that?
Well, I don't know as I really wanted to do it as I was asked to do it, but
Okay.
I always felt like this business, this organization, WEAU, and WEF gave me so much to help me in my career. I was always willing to give back. And so I was actually a WEAU board director for the last 2 years. And I was coming up at the end of my term on that. And I kind of thought they would come to me and just ask me to do another term. And they came and says, "Hey, we want to put you on the ballot as a direct or a WEF delegate." And I was like, "Okay, well, I don't know what that entails, but sure, I'll do it." It's a heck of a lot more work, but it's been interesting and well worth it. It's allowed me to meet a lot more people, grow my community, and give back, which is what I really want to be able to do. I've, like I said, I feel like they've given me so much to help advance my career that I feel like I kind of owe it back to the people that gave it to me and the next generation behind me.
Wow, that's amazing. And I agree with you. I think meeting people from all over the country, all the different parts, all over the world, actually, because we had some, international folks there as well at the last one you and I attended together. So that was my first event, and seeing the people there and how engaged they were and how dedicated individuals every single person is was amazing. Um, the water community really does have a lot of wonderful people in it that are, I mean, you like you said, you're watching the podcast with Sean and what he's doing, and Hannah's podcast, and all these other people that are in this space. Um, it's unbelievable how many people we have in this space and how dedicated and driven and giving they are. Just as we are. I mean, we're volunteering for these things. We volunteer to speak at these events, to educate and help, and that's what we're trying to do as well. So, it's really great to hear that that's part of this whole process in the water space.
Yep. You know, that's really all we can do, right? We start in this business, we need help.
Yeah.
We get to a point where we're doing the work, and then we get towards the end of our career where we can give it back. And if we don't give it back, we take that with us, and then it's our fault if this line of work is failing. So it's really up to us to give it back and prepare the next group of people.
Yep.
Well, and it's an interesting segue, I think, to the question that I kind of wanted to ask you originally, because you've basically stated that you guys are very conservative when it comes to adopting new things. So what is that balance like? And I mean, I think it comes down to your participation in the community and the events that happen. How do you find out when there is something new? And then, obviously you've already talked about your evaluation process, but there's got to be a way when you find out, okay, something new has come out, somebody has put it in somewhere and it's interesting. And I mean, having that community to go to for those types of answers has to be, I would hope, paying dividends for you and other treatment plants like this, right?
You have to have curiosity. And with curiosity, you want to learn. If you're willing to learn, then you're willing to do research, right? And like I said, we have an awesome engineer. That engineer is the same way. He has curiosity. He's willing to go out there and learn about these new processes and watch them as they develop. And when he sees something that's interesting, he'll point it out to us so that we can start watching it. Um, so this process he actually pointed out to us when we very first went out and looked at our very first ballasted material process. That one was proven. And he was like, but there's this other one that's just coming out, but it's not proven yet. But I would like you to start watching it because we got time before we're going to put this in. So
Gotcha.
we've been watching this for a while because we knew it was out there. And that curiosity of reading about these new processes, just because you're conservative about putting it in and you're protecting your ratepayers from paying for something that may not be proven, doesn't mean that you can't be curious about these new technologies. If you're not curious, you're not allowing things to advance. But you still need to protect your plant. We still
Absolutely.
have a job to do every day and be able to make sure that we're meeting our permits, and we don't want to put in a process that's going to hurt us from being able to do that. And when we have light staffs like most plants do, we have to make sure that those processes aren't going to overload our staff. And so it's a process there that, yeah, those companies have to be able to prove their equipment, and that sooner or later they got to be able to put it in somewhere. But it's also understanding that we've got to protect ourselves too.
Well, I'm going to ask a selfish question now. So, because we are a new entity, which we kind of talked about a little bit from the software side of things and from an AI perspective, AI moves very fast. and
Right.
our utilities move very slow. Where do you see that marriage coming in? We kind of talked about that a little bit, but where do you see that as after we've had some time to kind of think about it?
I think it's going to take, like I said, probably a few years before it really takes hold in these plants.
Yeah.
Um, and you're going to get a lot of resistance. Let's face it, even though you don't want to be taking jobs away from people, it's going to take jobs away. Um, if if AI comes in and people can see, hey, yeah, I need a guy to be overwatching this, but maybe I don't need three guys now overwatching this.
True.
Cities are going to say, I don't need to be paying for that. And so people are going to be very fearful of it. And
Hmm.
so it's going to take time to overcome that fear.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so you got an uphill fight. There's no doubt there. Do I think that it can be a very good thing? Yes. And I told you that in
Hmm.
Pittsburgh.
Yep.
But do I also think you got a struggle ahead of you? Yes.
Absolutely. No, and we understand that. And that's why we talked a lot about the human in the loop type environment. So I appreciate your honesty. I agree with you. I do think it's an uphill battle. I do think it's going to take time for people to really understand. I do think it's not going to really take away opportunities because we're so short-staffed already. That's kind of where my mind goes, is because we're already short-staffed and we're trying to fill positions. We're going to be able to maintain current staffage because we're going to fill those voids and hopefully become better and more efficient. So that's kind
You're
of my
not
goal.
thinking like a politician. You're not thinking like that city councilor that's trying to reduce the amount of money that's going out. That's going to work for districts, maybe not so much for cities.
Yeah, fair.
They're
That's
already
fair.
looking for ways to reduce that number.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And they were likely before any of this came around. It's just
Exactly.
a new tool and a new trend that they can potentially use to leverage to meet their own goals, which is reduce headcount and reduce that overhead cost of doing everything within
Be-
whatever the city does.
because what's the most expensive part about running any operation but the personnel?
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. You're funding retirement accounts and all the rest of that stuff that they, it's a hard thing politically to keep doing that, and I think they all look for easy solutions. And I mean, it's not for me to say whether that's good or bad or right or wrong, but it is the tool can be applied to however you want to use it. If you want to use a wrench as a hammer, you can. Is that the recommended
Right.
use by the manufacturer? Probably not, but it will still work if you want to make that work. It's and I always go to the same old anecdote that when we talk about this, our goal, and I think generally among the companies that are trying to do this, we're trying to build a tool. And if you think
Right.
about something like a very early version of a smart tool, at somewhere in the early 1900s, somebody invented the torque wrench. Prior to that, you just had regular wrenches, and you had somebody turning a wrench, and they were going by feel for when that bolt was on there, bolt or nut was on there, to the right tightness. Somebody invented the torque wrench. Did that mean that all mechanics got fired, or that you could reduce the amount of headcount because now they know? No, not necessarily. It did change their workflow, though, and the way they think about, okay, we no longer have to guess on these things, so we can handle more tasks over a certain amount of time with a lower risk profile, and then it changes the way those mechanics organizations operate. But if you were the type of person who was only looking to reduce headcount, could you say, yeah, I'm going to buy 6 torque wrenches and fire 1 mechanic because now I can do the same work with 5 guys that I could do with 6 before? Maybe.
Right. I like I said, I think it's a good thing. I
Yeah.
talked to Kurt about this that Thursday night when we was in Pittsburgh. I think there's some definite value in using the tool correctly.
Hmm.
Huge value actually. But do I think just like any tool, like you mentioned, can be used incorrectly and probably hurt some folks in the process? Yeah.
Yep.
And I
Absolutely.
think that's the fear that is out there and that is going to be tough to overcome to break into this industry and to get to where you guys are going to have a good foothold. Now, if you stick with it for that 4 or 5 years, do I think you'll be there? Yeah.
Yeah, and
Appreciate that.
you're certainly not the first or most conservative that we've talked to in terms of, hey, we're not going to apply. We're not going to be the first to apply something. We hear that a lot. I think the industry as a whole hears that a lot when these new things come up. It's why the vendors talk about death by pilot, and that's true. That's been true forever. Whether you're selling something physical or a software good, that when you first come out, you'd better be willing to prove it to people on your own dime, because nobody's going to be that first plant who puts it in on their own dime and their own risk. And that, I think we all have to be fine with that, because we're dealing with people's water and infrastructure, and that's, nobody wants to take that risk.
Very true.
So, Marlo, I did have a couple more questions. One, we're getting close to the end. So is there any wisdom you have for us outside of what we've already talked about? And then I'll have another question that's kind of more fun, because you mentioned something that's near and dear to my heart as you were talking today.
Wisdom. Boy, that one's a tough one. I don't think I'm very wise. So I'm just a normal everyday guy that comes to work, and I'm lucky enough to be here to help maybe guide some other folks to do things, and hopefully I'm guiding them in the right direction.
Well, that right there tells me a lot about who you are. And I think there is infinite wisdom in what you just said right there. So I'm so glad we met each other, because I want to continue this relationship beyond this podcast, because I love what you just said there. So, and the other part of it is that I heard you ride motorcycles.
I do.
So I ride motorcycles. I rode this morning, actually, even to just get out for a few minutes, get sitting in an office all day. It's like, all right, let's go. It's a beautiful sunny day. So I had to get out for 30 minutes, but, where do you like to ride? What do you like to ride? All that kind of fun stuff.
I have a 2022 Road Glide Limited that my
Okay.
wife and I like to get out on. I don't ride as much as I used to right at the moment, just because I've been dealing with some health issues over the past couple years. And unfortunately, I'm going to miss a little bit this summer again. But I'm going to be out Wednesday for sure.
Awesome.
I got to get a little time in before I go back into the hospital again. But, that's the thing that keeps my mind clear, really, is when I can get out on the open road. And Utah is a beautiful place to ride. We got lots of mountain roads to be able to
Yep.
ride on. My wife and I, for our 30th anniversary, we rode up the Columbia River Gorge and through the mountainous roads of Oregon into Astoria and down the coast and through the upper mountains of California and then back home. We took 10 days and did that, so motorcycle riding is definitely a nice way to spend our time.
I love it. I love hearing that. That's amazing. I call it wind therapy is what I call it.
Oh,
That's
yes.
That's something my dad taught me, and he rides still to this day. So that's where I learned to ride from. So it's just like you said. It's just something about getting out in that open breeze. It's awesome.
Yep.
Got to do stuff that keeps you sane. That's
Yes.
it's important to look at other things sometimes, and that's a great way to do it.
Well, yeah, because I like to golf, but that's irritating. Well, again, we can't thank you enough. But Miller, do you have any final questions?
No, I mean, I think that the theme for today, and I absolutely love it, is community. Build that community. Use those tools that you've got at your disposal. Use the industry organizations, the plants around you, the people around you to build something that everybody wants to come in and be a part of, and that alleviates a whole lot of problems with any job, I think, but especially with one that can often feel like you're siloed and held away from the real world and the rest of the public. So I love that idea, and I hope people will take that as a sage piece of, you said you don't think you have a lot of wisdom. I think that's one of the wisest things we've heard on this podcast so far. And we really
Well, I
appreciate
appreciate that, but really it was already there. So
that. Just keep doing what you have been doing and what's been around you. That's nothing wrong with that.
That's right. Yep. I think the people of Park City are lucky to have you. So we were lucky to have you as a guest. We really appreciate you being a guest on the show. Miller, I'm going to let you close it out today, but Marlo, thank you so much. I
Thanks
can't
for
thank you
having me.
enough. Absolutely. Miller,
Yeah.
close us down.
No, perfect. Well, thanks for joining us for the Fluid Operations Podcast today. As always, you can view and listen to these podcasts everywhere that you get your podcasts. We really appreciate Marlo being here with us today and talking about it. Make sure that if you ever go and do one of the operations challenges at any of the major conferences in North America, go look for the Snyderville team and the all-star team that he's built. I'm sure they'll be there. Thanks very much for listening. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.